everyone. Thank you for being here. I'd like to call to order as soon as I stop my watch. The Rapid City Area School Board of Education regular meeting. Shirley, may we have a roll call, please?
Troy Carr.
Here.
Jamie Clapham. Here. Christine Stephenson.
Here.
Deb Baker.
Here.
Michael Berkland.
Here.
Walt Swan.
Here.
Kate Thomas.
Present.
Samuel Blickensderfer.
Here.
And we have no J's tonight. Thank you.
Right, thank you. We don't have anybody signed up for invocation, so we'll do a 15-second moment of silence. All right, thank you. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Right, at this time, I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the proposed agenda. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Right, at this time, Superintendent Swaggart is here with the sharing the success.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. I appreciate this time at every board meeting to share the success. Tonight, we do have a few very exciting things. I'm going to start tonight with student volunteers of the semester. This is something that we began last year, and every semester, Rapid City Alternative Academy, Stevens High School, and Central High School select a volunteer of the semester, and then they get to come here and I get to say some great things about them because they are doing some amazing things. I would like to start tonight by recognizing Hunter Johnson of Rapid City Alternative Academy. Hold that for just a second, Hunter. I want to say some nice things about you. Hunter has stepped up to being a manager of the Rapid City Area Schools Food Pantry. Without even being asked, he found a way to give back and quickly took the initiative to lead. He is appreciated for the time and energy he has invested in the food security for Rapid City Area School families. Hunter is a true role model and shows amazing leadership and compassion to all when he is volunteering. Not only does he give of his time and energy to the food pantry, but he is also looking at identifying additional ways to get involved in our community. Thank you for all you have done, Hunter. Thank you. Yep. Next, I would like to invite Cannon Booth up. Cannon is from Stevens High School, but he also attends Central High School, if you'd like to stand. Cannon has made both a broad and a substantial impact to our community. This includes his effort in fighting homelessness, which has resulted in increased awareness of youth homelessness within the community. He has participated in several food drives to prevent hunger, resulting in hundreds of pounds of food donations for local families in need. He has sought to improve K-12 education within the district through his participation in the Student Voice Forums. And finally, he has presented national colors at several events to promote patriotism and to honor our country. This school year alone, Cannon has dedicated 84 hours of service to the community, an accomplishment already in and of itself amazing. Beyond his own substantial contributions, he has also been a strong advocate for volunteerism by encouraging participation from fellow students and assisting with teaching them how to log their hours. in volunteering. Cannon's dedication to serving his community has had a measurable and profound impact. After graduating, he hopes to continue by serving in the U.S. Air Force Academy and becoming a commissioned officer. And last, but certainly not least, I would like to recognize Lily Knopp, a senior at Central High School. Lily is an amazing young leader that not only steps into leadership roles, but also uses her talent to support our community in innovative ways. Lily has served as the Student Voice Forum Chair for the last 2 years. And if you don't know what that is the Student Voice Forum that meets with me almost monthly. We try to do it monthly. Some months we miss. She has done an amazing job leading that or co-chairing that. She works with me in creating the agendas that are informative and interactive. She leads the meeting by empowering everyone to contribute to the discussion while moving forward in a timely way so that all items can be discussed. Through involvement in Student Voice Forum, she has also led the Recycle Wars project the last 2 years at Central. She helped create and formalize the project by getting the appropriate approvals within the schools and connecting to the appropriate groups and community organizations to support the project. She actively engages in the community in her free time as well. This past summer, she created and implemented her own photography project at Love Inc. She created a Life Inc. community class and taught practical applications for mobile photography. She uses her talents and passions to help others in school and our community. She is solution-based and serves others in ways that create not only support, but a sense of community for those she meets. She leads by example and empowers those around her to become leaders too. And we appreciate all that she has done within our school community. Yes, it's just us. Next, I would like to recognize the Stevens and Central All-State Chorus and Orchestra. We're a little late in doing this, but did you want to say anything, Tammy? Not Tammy, Ann.
I'm all
Ann.
about organizing.
Yes, Ann and Tammy. Probably all the way around.
Are we gonna get a song? Superintendent Swagger.
Tammy, would you like to? Something to say, but I didn't get anything.
Shirley. Can you get a hold of Superintendent Swagger?
Yes.
We'd like a song.
It's like a song.
A note or something.
Geez, we've been off for 5 days. We could maybe hit the line Stevens High. Some of us could do that. But we have Central. That seems that we'd have to have the other song too. I can't.
I do.
Central folks, if we hit the line Stevens High, can you do your school song as well? Okay.
I heard somebody say happy birthday. That'll work.
Whose birthday is today? We could do that. In harmony.
Car will invite them back.
Okay, prepared. We may not prepare.
Oh, okay.
So my name is Ann Deckard. I teach choir at Stevens High School, and I thank the board for having us come today for our recognition. In the hallway, I said I usually like to write a script because then I don't say dumb things, but I forgot to write a script, so I'll stick to the basics. We had a really large entourage of students who were selected. Is this better over here? We had a large entourage of students who were selected between Stevens and Central High School for orchestra. It is a live audition. They auditioned for a place in a specific chair in the orchestra. And for the choir, each school is allowed 5 quartets, and we do our own auditions. So it's very competitive for those spots. I would say both, you know, for orchestra as well as for choir, because we have many students auditioning and can only take a limited number. We had all-state chorus and orchestra here at the monument at the end of October. It was really a wonderful experience. We got to work with 2 fantastic clinicians. I got the honor of taking them to lunch, and we got to visit quite a bit. I feel like the repertoire they chose for both the orchestra and the choir, it was very accessible for high school, but each had its unique challenges. And the students worked really hard to prepare for that event and gave a really beautiful concert. I feel like our monument is equal, if not better, than the Sioux Falls venue. So we love it when it is here. Don't tell the Sioux Falls people. Hope they're not watching. The sound engineering is really much improved from when we had the old venue at the Civic Center to now what it is. And so it was a beautiful concert, and I would introduce either of my orchestra colleagues if they have anything additional to say. Penny Schnickern, Emily, okay, nothing else.
Absolutely.
Hi, I'm Isaac Holland. I play bassoon, and I got my 4-year award this year. And I was first chair.
I'm Sebastian Garcia from Stevens High School, and I was able to play trumpet this year in All-State Orchestra.
I'm Marietta from Stevens, and I sing soprano.
Hi, I'm Kira Fields. I'm from Stevens, and I play the cello.
I'm Azura Klegel from Stevens, and I sing alto.
I'm Peyton Doctor. I'm from Stevens, and I played the viola.
I'm Rachel Bunger. I'm from Stevens, and I play the violin.
I'm Maine Dunbar, and I'm from Stevens. I sang tenor.
I'm Austin Derby, and I sang tenor, and I'm from Stevens.
I'm Dylan Tipton. I'm from Stevens, and I also sing tenor.
I'm Lael Sutton. I'm from Stevens, and I sing soprano.
I'm Logan Stone. I'm from Central, and I play cello.
I'm Nadia Belcher from Central, and I play bass.
I'm Enya Wallace. I play violin, and I also received my 4-year award.
I'm Chris Bide. I'm from Central, and I play the viola.
I'm TJ Woolsey. I'm from Stevens, and I play the bass.
I'm Tammy Schnickern. I'm the director at Stevens. You don't have to.
And I'm Emily Flom. I'm the director at Central.
Thank you so much. Did you, can we squeeze maybe so we can get a picture? A group picture?
Would you like to?
2 rows would be great. Ladies in the front. And Tammy Hyde at the back.
I do.
I'll make a window. President Carr and students, I would like to congratulate everybody. I'm sorry it was late getting you into a board meeting, but I will say this, you are part of what exemplifies music in Rhapsody area schools, and you are amazing, and I thank you very much. And President Carr, finally, for celebrations tonight, we have a couple of things that we want to do with the Rapid City Public School Foundation. If I could have Kara and Sarah please come up. As most of you know, Rapid City Public School Foundation is a foundation in the community that goes out of its way to support public education. I learned just recently, like last night, that this is the 30th anniversary of the Rapid City Public School Foundation this year. Kara Flynn has had a couple of stints as the executive director of the Public School Foundation, and she has decided to pursue different avenues. And so I want to publicly thank her for the work that she has done and everything that she has put into the Rapid City Public School Foundation. She will be missed. However, in a search for a new executive director, I would like to introduce the board to Sarah Hornick. Sarah Hornick comes highly qualified for this position and well supported by a fantastic board and a former executive director. Sarah has 3 students in our district and has done work similar to this in the past. So we are thrilled to have her on board. I am going to hand the mic over to them because they have a very exciting announcement to make. Krista?
Well, November 7th, we announced the Fed and Ready campaign to raise $50,000 to pay off the 2022-2023 student lunch debt. And we are excited to announce that we have reached that goal. And I'm very excited to be able to give you this money before I leave my position. So we're excited to present this check, and we want to thank independent insurance agents for giving us the initial $25,000 donations, and to our corporate sponsors, Black Hills Energy, Rapid City Medical Center, and Dakota Radiology. We're really proud to support a school district that continues to serve lunch to every student every day so that they all have the nutrition they need and can fully participate in their educational experiences. And so we hope you accept this money. And then we know the fight is not over. So our account at the Black Hills Area Community Foundation will still accept donations. And on February 24th, from noon to 4 at the Doll, the U City Council is going to hold an art auction and raise more funds towards this year's student lunch debt. So thank you.
Boy, you should definitely. Come on, guys. Oh, no, you don't. Come on in, everybody. Come on. Yeah. That is it for celebrating success tonight, Bishop Carr.
Right, thank you very much. Before we move on to student reports, any board members like to have any comments about our success on tonight? Oh. That's okay, you're good.
I just want to say really quick, one, I have had the privilege of working with Kara on the Public School Foundation, and we are so absolutely grateful for all the hard work and dedication that she has put in to support Rapid City Schools. And we're sad to see you go, but the people getting you are lucky to have you. And we know you're not really completely gone. I know better than that. My other kind of was just to say, you know, so many times I feel like in this day and age, we hear kids just aren't what they used to be and the world is falling apart. And how powerful it is to see we have kids giving back to their community. We have kids investing in their talents, and should just remember that when we get bogged down and the like, oh, we have behaviors and we have this, but we also have great students in this district, really great students. And it's wonderful to be able to celebrate them and sort of bring us back to a place that there are really bright lights in our future. And it's really awesome to get to support them. So congrats to all of them.
All right, thank you. Mrs. Stephenson.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say more of the same, but Kara, thank you so much. You've done so much for our district, not just in the foundation, but all the work you do. And super appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm so glad that you're moving on to Children's Home because I think that you will be wonderful there. And Sarah, welcome. You and I know each other and I was so pleased to hear that you're gonna be on at the foundation. And then, Nicole, I thank you for bringing in the All-State, and that's just a treat. It's just a treat. And the volunteers and all the student presentations. I agree with Jamie, just kind of warms you up. So appreciate it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Berkland.
Thank you. I often don't say anything because I'm just gonna say the same thing, but I'll say it tonight. Because I also had the honor to serve on the Rapid City Public School Foundation, continue to have the honor to serve. So thank you, Kara, for all that you've done for us, and welcome, Sarah. I'm excited to get started working with you. And same thing, just really great to see all these awesome students that we have, and I'll leave it there.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right, Mr. Blinkensturfer, ready for your report.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you all for being here. And I firstly want to thank all of the, and congratulate all the students who came and everybody who came, because I think it's great what everybody's doing in the community. It's awesome to see people come and, but moving forward into the report, as many of you know, last week concluded our first semester of school. So tomorrow we officially begin our second semester. Now, as we roll into the second semester, currently there are 300 students applying for dual enrollment classes. This number will go up, it might drop down, we'll see, but that is pretty good numbers. So very cool that we have a lot of students involved with the dual enrollment courses. Now, to finish the week of finals last week, our band hosted the winter band concert on January 11th. Now, leading into the weekend, the winter formal dance was also scheduled for Saturday, but we had to cancel that. That was canceled due to inclement weather. Hopefully that gets rescheduled. I'm not quite sure if it will get rescheduled, but refunds will be available this upcoming week. Now, last week, the first Staff Knowledge Bowl was hosted in the library. Now, even though this was a teacher-only event, I was able to sneak into the library towards the beginning of the event and to see what was going on. I was shocked to see how many people were laughing. I was like, I felt bad because I was missing out a little bit, but it's okay. It sounds like they're having a good time. So I think that was a success. And then baseball and basketball both had their parent and athlete meetings last week. A lot of these athletes are excited to start spring sports, so it's great seeing involvement in the athletics at Stevens High School. And then on Tuesday, January 9th, we had our advanced art show. Because of this, I thought it would be most suiting to have Miss Alicia Coyne as this week's teacher spotlight. Miss Coyne has been teaching at Stevens since 2011. She teaches advanced art, advanced clay, basic drawing and design 1 and 2, clay construction, Native American art, and craft design. So she teaches a lot of classes. Very impressive. I think she must be one of the teachers she teaches probably the most amount of classes at Stevens. So it's very impressive. Now, she started teaching art in 1995 as a United States Peace Corps volunteer in St. Kitts and Nevis, West Indies, teaching grades kindergarten through 12th grade for 2 years. And then her goal is to help students in achieving inspiration through visual arts. Whether it be simply enjoying, creating, or exploring art, there are many ways to get into a visual art career. Art leads students to focus on specific things, which can help them with their observation skills, problem solving, and communication. The advanced art students at Stevens, Mrs. Coyne teaches, are assigned to arrange a yearly art show. Now, this week it was on last week, January 9th, and this just teaches young artists to present art in different forms of works in a professional manner. And then she also has collaborations with artists around the community so the talents can be shared among everybody. So it's really awesome. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to go, but it sounds like it was a really fun time. And then at our last meeting, Mrs. Baker, you had a question regarding Emmy Hofer in her selection into the National Student Advisory Council. This was done through an application process. So I look forward to seeing what she can do for our school and for the few thousand students she's representing. So thank you guys for being here, and never forget, there's nothing greater than a Raider.
Thank you very much. Any questions? Any board members have any questions? All right, thank you for that report. At this time, person wishing to address the school board, before we do that, I'd like to read our guidelines so that we're all on the same page. Issues that affect an individual or particular school should be first addressed at the building level. Speakers should speak clearly and concisely and should stay focused on their main points. Speakers must refrain from making complaints about personnel, either naming the employee directly or identifying them indirectly. Complaints regarding district policy should be filed in accordance with District Code KL Public Complaints. Speakers must respectfully communicate. Speakers must refrain from making threats, using vulgar language, intimidating, or harassing the board or members of the district. With that being said, our first speaker tonight is Mrs. Gross, and you have 5 minutes.
Do I hold it?
Yeah.
Super. Okay, my name is Sarah Gross and I am a parent and a teacher in the district. I come to you a lot, but today is about the film festival on February 10th. From 9 until about 2, we'll have 10-minute long sections with films about each school in the Rapid City public system. And so if you come at 9:10, you'll see South Park and then Robbinsdale, and we'll do Grandview and Wilson and then South. And I'm just so excited I could burst. I wanted to tell you about a couple of things because each film that's coming in has a unique aspect and takes me down another little rabbit hole. So the first fun fact that I found is that we all know about Stevens High School, but did you know that Paul C. Stevens has another school named after him? It's in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, where he was also the superintendent. So that was like, oh, how fun. I had no idea. I'm calling it free search, not research, but the newspapers are plentiful and very factual, so I enjoy them. The second fun fact is that and then I knew part of it, so it's kind of like adding bits and pieces, but I knew that Blackhawk came into Rapid, and I knew that Rapid Valley came into Rapid, and that at some point we reorganized for Cleghorn to come into Rapid City. But I live on the south side, and I went to Annie Talent, and that south area of town had its own common school district called the Mattoon School District. And so in the 1952 Rapid City Journal, I found an article about the schoolhouse that was on the corner of 3rd and Foreman. If you're familiar with the district, South Park sits at 207 Foreman. And so there's a picture of the schoolhouse, and then there's also a picture of what got built there, and it's the South Park Congregation Church. And in this 1952 article, it looks a lot like the building that sits there today. So I think February 10th is just going to be a hoot. It's like an open house, so you can come for 10 minutes, you can come for 3 hours. Dakota STEAM is going to be upstairs, and so you can take the family upstairs and do some learning with your kids, and then we'll pop up all the displays from October. And so it's just going to be a great time. That, and then tomorrow is I have to read it so I get it right. I Love South Dakota Public School Day. And so I've got my shirt on tonight, I'm gonna wear it tomorrow, but I hope all of you will show your love for public schools in some way tomorrow. And I think it's on social media and you can hashtag it somewhere, but I just very much enjoy what our schools do for our kids and have enjoyed so much learning more about our school district and how we come together to be what we are today. So thank you for your time and what you do every day.
Thank you. Next, we have Mrs. Atkinson. Ms. Atkinson.
Good evening. I'm so sorry that's hard to pronounce. It's Atkinson.
Sorry.
It's okay. Good evening, board. I want to begin this evening by apologizing for last week's misstep. I, like President Carr, was unaware that we were not to discuss topics that were not on the agenda during a study session. I did enjoy tonight being present for so many exceptional students and the joy that they've brought to this district and this community. So before I attempt to continue my previous conversation from last week, I do have a question about an agenda item tonight. Item 12C on the agenda indicates a substitute principal pay of $450 per day. It seemed a little bit much, so I went looking to compare that price with an average and couldn't find one. So I was just curious what information was used to make that decision for pay because I couldn't seem to find one. Back to my area of expertise though. While I'm happy to have had a conversation with Superintendent Swigert earlier today about moving forward together and communicating more often, I'm still really disappointed to see nothing on tonight's agenda about the Department of Education's findings or the district's obligations to respond. There's so much work to do, and it seems ill-advised to throw something together last minute. I recognize that this board's stance on the matter is to not say anything without legal counsel. That's been stated repeatedly. I understand that that will maybe not change, but I would like to remind the board and our public that there were multiple opportunities given to Rapid City Area Schools Administration and this Board of Education to do right. And that was all prior to an official complaint being filed. I want to make that so clear that there were lots of opportunities prior to it being a legal issue. I came and spoke about my concerns when I was still an employee and a teacher in this district. And I've continued to show up because I live in this disability community every day. It's every day for me. The claim that board members and district administration couldn't or can't speak on this issue is true once it became an official legal matter. But again, make no mistake, there have been multiple opportunities for someone, anyone, to do the right thing prior to these parents escalating to a complaint. The fact of the matter is that no one did anything. So now that this investigation is over and it's time to fix it, I'm hoping we can have some more candid conversations. The findings in the investigation report require the district to make reparations for the last year. But as I shared with Superintendent Swigert earlier today, the issues are systemic. These discriminatory practices have been going on for years, decades even. I'll end tonight with yet another plea to special education parents of Rapid City area schools, children with disabilities. Please get involved and help this district create policies and procedures that mean successful outcomes for your children, because they won't do it without you.
Thank you. All right, at this time, board response to open forum. All right. We should have a hand raising practice before. Okay. The chair recognizes Mrs. Stephenson.
Ms. Gross, thank you for all your work again. I look forward to February 10th, and I appreciate that you take all the opportunities to educate the public that you can about our district. As for the DOE decision, I want to speak as a board member, as a professional who works with kids with disabilities in this town. This is really dear to me. I accept the DOE decision, and I will encourage our administration to make things right as quickly as possible. These are people that I love and that I've known my entire professional career. So without speaking to specifics, I can say that. I believe it's not on our agenda specifically because things go on our agenda when there are items to vote on. I mean, it could have been an informational item, but I believe that the superintendent is going to speak on it tonight and then at the next meeting, provided everything goes as scheduled. And I hope I'm not putting words into your mouth, but it's not something that the board is just saying, you know, okay, done and dusted, let's move on. It is something that I, as a board member, care really deeply about.
Hey, chair recognizes Mrs. Baker.
Sarah, you are amazing with this. You found my third grade teacher. I can't even believe that. And that was 100 years ago. But I just want to thank you for all that you're doing on this. This is pretty phenomenal. And this is something that people, I think, will really enjoy. So you've worked really hard on this, and I thank you for that.
All right, chair recognizes Mrs. Clapham.
Also very much thanks to Mrs. Gross. I'm excited. I have no idea when you sleep or have any time to do all the other things in your life. So I probably need to take lessons from you on how you manage time. And just really briefly on, as far as the complaint, it does get complicated, I think, as far as where something is presented on an agenda when there are many things this district is working on all the time. When we talk about even our buses and our transportation bus cancellations, and it doesn't all come to a board agenda, and we've kind of discussed how it gets really complicated of what's discussed unless all of us are there, and so I think that's part of it, but I will say, I think too, yes, there is a lot being done, but I also would say that we're to speak on the Marzano research and their assessment of the district, and that's something that has been very public and that we are actively doing, that we are investing time and financial resources into assessing our entire special education program. So we do care, we are not ignoring, we are doing, and we want the best for every single student in this district, all of them.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none at this time, Superintendent Swiger is coming with their superintendent report.
Thank you, Bishop Carr. These two gentlemen who sit to the left of me looked at it, said it was 2 pages and kind of rolled their eyes a little bit. And then I said, but that doesn't include the legislative update. So there. So strategic planning update. The next staff appreciation event is this Sunday at the Elks Theater. It is Sunday, the 21st. The doors will open at noon. The movie will start at 12:20. For royalty rights, we're not allowed to say what movie it is.
Oh.
So just know that there'll be a movie playing. Hope it's playing. The movie will start at 12:20 and it lasts about 2 hours. I wanted the board to know that calendars, which kind of covers 2 pillars or more than 2 pillars, but the staff pillar and the student pillar will be on the next agenda. Best laid plans were that we would vote on a calendar 2 years last year and not have to make any changes, but a couple of things have come forward. So there will be a couple of changes to the 24, minor changes to the 24-25 calendar, and your first look at the 25-26 calendar on the February 6th meeting. In the student section, as Jamie pointed out, Marzano Special Education Services were here in person last week. We did a big project on the logic model, and the logic model is basically, this is an action that you want us to look at, and this is what you think your outcomes are, this is what you want your outcomes to be, and this is where you would like Marzano to look at situations. And we went through a variety of areas of the district's special education that we do want reviewed, and that was a great morning of work. And then the Marzano team went out and visited a school to see some of our special education in action. They'll be back. Semester finals, as Samuel pointed out last week, the weather is always a big deal, right? And I've talked to you about it being a very challenging aspect of being a superintendent, but luckily we didn't have students in school Friday or Monday or today. So I didn't have to make that call, but I will assure you that on all of those days, I was getting text messages from other superintendents who were in school asking me what I was doing. Communication continues to be a priority focus. Work on the website and social media sites continue. Employee surveys, we talked about that with Studer Education. Employee surveys will be going out at the end of the month. These surveys will be looking at leadership roles at below the district level leadership. And that work will continue. Coy will always hit on facilities, thankfully. I don't have to talk about that. Community, our Rapid City Area School leaders and staff are working with a variety of community partners on everything from playgrounds, on boards, service clubs, and organizations. Casey from Studer will be in Rapid City on the ground February 28th and 29th. She will spend some of that time working with principals and managers, and a bunch of that time working with Pillar Champions and the district direction leaders. District items, Mr. Ferris has agreed to step in at Pinedale as interim principal. I do recognize that Rocky brought that forward. We have to realize that Mr. Ferris was a long-term employee in our district. And when we bring those employees back, we look at their daily wage when they left. So just for a piece of information there. And Todd Christensen is serving as Director of Special Education Services for the remainder of the school year. As was brought up in open forum, there was a DOE finding on special education. That comes with a whole bunch of expectations that the district will be working on. We're already working on that. Some items have to be turned into the state by February 4th. Other items will take board action. And when that happens, we will bring that forward and it will be on the board agenda. And we will make sure that you understand that it is in connection to that Department of Education decision. We are working to fulfill those requirements and we're taking them seriously. And we didn't hesitate to step right in immediately. The grant writer that we were unable to hire a local person that fit our qualifications, so we hired externally. That grant writing organization worked very closely recently with Krista, and we just submitted a farm to school grant. I loved hearing the grant team talk about how amazing Krista's team was. And I loved hearing Krista's team talking about how great the grant team was. So I feel like we've made some excellent progress there. On the schools side, South Dakota DOE is in town. Starting tomorrow, conducting a title review. Teams will meet, the DOE team will meet with me and then all of the title school principals. After that, they will meet with Director Strong and Todd Christensen for the ELL program, which is a title program. And following a break, the team will be conducting parent interviews. We did have to reschedule the McKinney-Pinto interview for a future date. And on Thursday, that same DOE group will visit Knollwood, General Beetle, Horace Mann, Robbinsdale, and Wilson. They will also visit St. Thomas More, because if you're familiar with title program work, there is a private school component. So any students who attend a private school that live in the boundary of a title school within our district, those portion of the funds can follow that student to the private school. So they are visiting St. Thomas More. Legislative updates of a very big sheet. I'm going to scan this highlighted version and send it off to you, but there's a lot of major things happening. I think Coy and I would both say that our biggest concern right now is House Bill 1048. We did present to a couple of gentlemen yesterday morning. Coy presented, I just added 2 cents here and there. They did call me back today though and asked Coy and I to go to Pier Thursday afternoon and testify in front of a group session of the House and Senate Ed Committee. So we are thrilled to be doing that until Dr. Strasser pointed out it's going to snow on Thursday when we're driving to Pier.
Superintendent Swigert, what bill is that? What?
House Bill 1048.
What is it? Oh, okay. All right. Well, I didn't quite ask for a deep dive, maybe in the shallow end of the pool, but okay.
I know I had mentioned that I was taking a great trip over Christmas and I missed the last board meeting because of that. I highly recommend visiting the Panama Canal. It is an incredible engineering feat that blows my mind. But the return was not fun as I was stuck in Dallas for 36 hours at the airport. And then as Sarah pointed out, tomorrow is I Love South Dakota Public Schools Day. There are hashtags and there'll be information on our website about that. The next couple of weeks are incredibly busy for me. We do not have a study session next Tuesday, and the following Tuesday is the community session. But I have to go to Sioux Falls twice because I decided that I needed to know more about special education law, so I signed up for a class. And I'm also going to be serving on the superintendent's and legislative delegation team, so I will be in Pier. So I will be in and out of the office, but always available by email or phone call. Thank you.
Right, any questions? Oh. Chair recognizes Mrs. Stevenson or Stephenson?
Stephenson.
Stephenson, okay.
Sorry, it's easy to forget. I'm gonna start backwards. Thank you for signing up for the superintendent lobby, whatever, that you're, I'm pleased that you're gonna be in Pierre, talking with our legislators. And I'm sorry that you got stuck in Dallas. The DOE conducting the title review, is that a routine thing?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and then can you give a summary? I know what is due on February 4th, but can you tell the public high level what you will be turning in on February 4th, or is that not?
I'm not ready to talk about that yet, because we have had a change in leadership at the top. There has been some conversation with the DOE about a short extension, so I'm not gonna get into that at this moment.
That makes sense. Will the board see what gets turned in before
Yes.
February 4th? Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay. Chair recognizes Ms. Clapham.
Really quick, I was also gonna say thank you for signing up. I think it's just it's powerful to see how you respond, like to grow and be better and say, okay, I can learn more about TIDLA. So I'm really impressed by that, and it's active, and I really appreciate that. And the other thing, just I wanted to make sure before I said it, and you had mentioned about the salary that Ms. Akins had brought up, isn't it also correct that that is no benefits, no anything else?
Correct.
That's something that in context, when you just say $450, like it just looks like that's what, but that's not actually fully accurate, am I correct?
We are contracting with Mr. Ferris with his LLC, and that means we don't do any taxes, any benefits or anything, so that all comes out. He is responsible for that. So that is one of the reasons when we ask former principals or administrators to come into the district that we do look at that, because through South Dakota Retirement, there's very strict rules about number of days and hours they can work. It's very complicated. LLCs allow them to do a little bit more for us, and we are incredibly blessed and lucky to have Mr. Ferris agree to remain at Pinedale for the remainder of this year, because he absolutely could have stepped away. He has other things in the fire, but I think I've reported before that my daughters both went K through 5, 5th grade at Pinedale, and one of them was very lucky to have Mr. Ferris as a teacher. He lives near there. His heart is at Pinedale Elementary, and it's succeeding from his years of teaching there, and he just stepped up when we needed him to. So very appreciative of that.
Yes, thank you for that clarification, and I always say the connections. Mr. Ferris was actually my mother-in-law's student teacher when she was teaching, so I have a special place in my heart for him too.
Awesome. All right. Anything else for the superintendent? Right, moving right along, coming with his shallow report, our business manager, Mr. Sassy.
Thank you, President Carr. I appreciate it, sir. So obviously, as legislative season kicks off, we are always looking out for bills that are going to impact the district. Me particularly on the financial side, I leave all the other stuff to Nicole, you know. So there's been several bills introduced even in the short time period that the legislative session has been going. The one that has created the most, I would say, concern for me has been House Bill 1048. You heard Nicole talk about that a little bit. And as we have discussed in the past couple of board reports I've given, we anticipated legislation coming forward that would, is that, am I doing that? The Zoom panel, or is that just on there? Thank you, thank you. That would further address accountabilities around that target teacher compensation piece. The accountabilities up to this point were a part of the 2017 teacher compensation bill, and those will expire at the end of the current fiscal year. So we anticipated legislation coming forward, and this has been the first bill introduced to that end. And I will walk you through, in my opinion, why it exemplifies the concerns that we've discussed up to this point around not understanding the complexity of school finance and really how it correlates to that teacher compensation piece. I will say this out front with prior to starting everyone's hair on fire, in the conversations that we've had, I think we continuously hear folks saying, well, this is not going to gain a lot of traction. It is not a bill that seems to resonate with folks and that ultimately it's not going to gain a lot of traction. I think my response to that has been, yes, but there will be an accountability bill and we need to be prepared and we need to understand how those different pieces could resurface in another bill and ultimately how they impact the district. So then late last week, we got a white paper from the Department of Education. So the language in the black boxes is language directly from the document that the Department of Education put out with their white paper on this HB 1048. I will tell you, I was shocked to see some of the language in this. And again, I think it exemplifies what we've talked about in terms of even at that level, having a serious misunderstanding about how state aid impacts districts and how that trickles over into teacher compensation. But what I did was chop this bill up and then put some response points in red. So as you can see, the DOE gives a little background that in 2016, legislature added a half a penny sales tax, providing a huge boost to the state aid funding formula and creating 2 accountability measures. And as I thought about this, I believe this point creates a lot of confusion because if you were around education back then, which many of you weren't, but what happened in the bill that created the teacher compensation formula was that 12%, excuse me, I should say that differently. All districts received a 12% increase directly to their total state aid revenue. From that point on, all increases in state aid then went to the target teacher salary of the component of the state aid formula. And I think that's created a great deal of confusion because a lot of people, including, I believe, legislators, assume that because it happened this way in the beginning, that's just what continues to happen. So if you flash back in the time period from 2016 to 2017, all districts received a 12% increase in state aid, meaning you could take their state aid amount in 16, multiply it times 12%, and you would get their state aid amount in 17. So it was a direct injection of revenue into school districts. However, after that point, that did not happen. That increase then started going to that one component of the formula. And so I think this creates further misunderstanding of what is actually happening there. It goes on to talk about what the bill does. And this is where I tried to chop these up and respond to these. So the bill puts in place a new accountability measure. It requires districts to keep pace with annual increases in state aid funding. And it defines a benchmark teacher salary. And there's a lot of words there, but basically what they're saying is that they're going to use fiscal year 25 to come up with a new benchmark salary. I think there's 2 major points here. First, is of course this creation of a new benchmark teacher salary that happens in fiscal year 25. And you'll notice I bold underlined salary. So previously the measurement was around teacher compensation. The verbiage now moves to teacher salary, and I'll talk more about that here shortly. The second major point being that in fiscal year 26 and beyond, a district will be required to increase average teacher salary by the increase in target teacher salary. So we talked about this 2 weeks ago. And the best example I can give around what this would look like is based on current projections, a 4% increase to average teacher salary in next fiscal year would cost the district about $2.55 million. while state aid revenue would decrease by 63,000 with a 4% increase to the target teacher salary. So for our district, we would see a gap opening up between state aid revenue and compensation. And that would be a requirement that whatever the legislature says is going to the target teacher component of the formula, districts would have to increase their average salary by the same amount. That's a big concern. Goes on to discuss the idea that it requires districts who have not kept up with annual increases since 2018 to make up that lost ground according to a stepped manageable schedule. Districts would have until fiscal year 2028 to be at 100% of their local benchmark salary and would need to maintain that amount plus annual increases moving forward. So what does that mean to our district? The state also sent out a document in which they identified these benchmark salaries, and I won't dive into that right now. That's a whole nother conversation. But you can see here that they say that Rapid City's new benchmark salary will be $59,016. That is
Very clear,
approximately.
That would be salary, not compensation. They're using specifically the word salary there.
Yes, ma'am. Correct.
Okay. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
More to come on that. More to come on that. So that would be an approximate 10.8% increase from the district's current average salary. So our certified salary base in fiscal year 24 is $54 million. So if we took 54 million times 10.8%, that would cost about 5.8 million in salaries. We then multiply that times the 13.65 for OASI benefits or payroll benefits, and that adds an additional 796,000. So the all-in cost to move to that benchmark would be about 6.6 million. The comment I made to our lobbyist gentleman that when Nicole and I chatted with him was, if we had those kind of resources, we would not be having this conversation.
Or is that
Yes,
just-
ma'am.
That's just teachers, that's nobody else.
Correct. Just teachers. Keep in mind that the bill would require not only us to hit that benchmark in a 3-year period, but also to keep up with whatever annual increases are happening. So again, back to our previous example, 6.6 million plus another 2.55. Now we're up in the $9 million range over a 3-year period. Again, state aid revenue declining going into next year. Obviously, we don't know what the future holds in terms of what that would look like, but at least for next year, we see declining resources in state aid. And then lastly, this came again directly out of their paper. The bill puts the focus on teacher salaries versus teacher compensation. So it moves away from the idea of looking at a total compensation package, which is, as of now, what the accountability looks at. Salary plus any benefits that the district is paying on behalf of the teacher. In my opinion, it will cause districts to basically play a shell game of moving compensation away from benefits and to salary simply to meet the requirements of those accountability measures. I think it'll hurt teachers and all employees of districts by watering down benefit packages and making premiums very expensive to the point that I believe you'll see a migration completely away from employees even electing to take benefit package because it'll be so expensive. In my opinion, it will damage districts' ability to use tools outside of just salary to recruit and retain teachers and again, all employees, because that doesn't have an isolated impact just on the teachers. For example, in our health insurance plan, even as a self-funded plan, employee participation is very important. So the closer we move to 100% of employees participating, the more it helps our benefit package and the more it helps our premium situation. So as we degrade that by pulling resources away and we have employees that are dropping out of participating, it's going to create a very, very difficult and unsustainable situation around that health insurance aspect of things. And again, remove a tool that we use to recruit and retain. Nope, so I think that was the end of it. Again, from what we're hearing, does not sound like a lot of support for this bill. However, I think we need to be very well prepared, and I'm also pleased that we're having the opportunity to go and chat with the legislature about this, because I do think that there are pieces of this that are going to resurface through other bills. And we need to be prepared to talk about how that impacts us and really be able to tell our story in terms of how this impacts our district financially and what we see are issues. So stop there, President Carr, and certainly happy to answer any questions anyone might have.
Mrs. Stephenson.
Thanks. Coy, so I think in a previous presentation, you had a slide that showed our total state aid revenue year to year.
Yeah.
If I were to give you feedback on this for going to peer, like, I think that should be the background piece. Like,
Oh, absolutely.
this is what you've raised education by every year, but this is what's actually happened in our district. And if you don't mind, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, of course.
My own reference. So I wanted to, just one question. If this bill said total compensation instead of salary, have you, like, would we be okay? Have you calculated out what that would cost?
No, I have not. I think the pieces that are of major concern to me, Christine, in terms of the financial situation, are twofold. One being this idea that we would have to make up lost ground as a district would be financially devastating, whether it was based around salary or compensation. It would cripple this district, and I don't want to speak for other districts, but I believe all districts would struggle with it to an extent. As we've talked about many times, the reverberation of a situation like that in our system particularly is the impact on capital outlay in facilities, because we would have to dig deep into capital outlay and use that flexibility revenue to help offset a lot of this cost increase. And so it would have a twofold impact. And then secondly, I personally have a major issue with the idea that a district would be tied directly to whatever the increase is in the target teacher compensation. And again, I think that per your point, Christine, the heart of all of this is the deep misunderstanding at every level about what actually happens to state aid when there is an increase. And it is not what people think it is. That is a false premise that all of this information is built around. And so I think that'll be a huge part of what I want to relate to that group on Thursday is what you believe is happening is not actually what's happening. And here, let me show you what's actually happening. Let me show you the year over year declines in state aid revenue, because you cannot, again, I know I'm sounding like the broken record, but you cannot draw a straight line from one point to another. It is far too complex and far too many variables to be able to do that. So, frankly, Christine, I think the salary portion has the greatest impact in terms of what the benefit packages that districts offer look like. But it wouldn't make a huge difference, in my opinion, whether it was salary or salary and compensation in those other two matters.
Mr. Brooklyn.
Thank you. My first question is, what is the consequence, I guess, if we did not do this?
It's a really interesting question, Mr. Berkeley. Let me show you. Well, maybe. So
couldn't do it or didn't do it.
Yeah, it's super, right? Here's the actual document, and I can certainly forward this to everybody so you can take a look at it as well. The document is very vague about what would happen. So what it says is, let me find it here. Compliance with the new accountability measure would be reviewed annually by the Department of Education removing that responsibility from the School Finance Accountability Board. So basically now there's a finance accountability board that the state puts together, and they're saying we would move that from that group to the DOE. Through the accreditation process, the Department of Ed would work with districts that don't meet benchmarks to create a plan for doing so. Respectfully, none of those folks are in the business of operating a school district. And so their ability to help the districts in our state create a plan that is feasible and reasonable to reach that goal is questionable. Then the School Finance Accountability Board would continue to review the cash balance accountability measure put in place in 2016. So Bishop Carr has talked about this a couple different times, and I think he makes some great points that one of the things that you don't hear anybody saying from the legislative level down to whatever level of stakeholder we want to talk about is all districts in South Dakota are rich, and they have a bunch of money sitting in a room somewhere that they're not sharing with employees. And so one of the things that happens now under the current accountabilities is the Finance Accountability Board reviews all cash balances of all districts to make sure that districts aren't sitting on money. So we would actually get penalized if we had too much cash, et cetera, et cetera. So they're in essence saying we would continue to review, make sure you're not hoarding cash and not passing that on. But will you talk about what you heard? Because I think you've heard a little more about what the consequence might be if this was not met.
So in a conversation that I was a part of, I heard that if we don't meet this, the DOE will just take over our finances. They will make all the decisions for the school district in a financial manner, which greatly concerns me. This bill came out of the Department of Education office. This came from Dr. Graves, which is not typically how bills hit the floor. So it is very interesting the way this has processed through. It comes with some great concerns. I feel like it directly relates to the budget address that we listened to at the beginning of December. I also think that it sends a message to our employees that we have done them wrong. I had a couple of conversations this weekend with teachers. One person said they're super excited because they're going to get a $10,000 raise. That's what the state is saying. And I said, you do understand that it's salary, which means that there's a compensation piece that we are no longer going to be held. We're not going to be able to hold that to the level of respect that we typically give that. And I just said, what if you got a raise like that, $10,000, but what if your family insurance raised by $800 a month? So in a year, you're paying more out for insurance than you received in a raise. Now, we have no way of saying that. That would truly be what happens, but it would be a worst case scenario. Also, a thing that hugely concerns me is this removes negotiations from the table completely. Because this tells a district, this is the raise that you will give your employees. So there will no longer be any expectation of negotiating for other pieces of that process. Because the state is telling us, this is the raise. And for the next 3 years, it would be, this is the raise and this is how far you have to move forward to get to where we thought you should be. So for 3 years, it is the raise plus the makeup. And then after that, it would just be the raise. I also find it very interesting. There's a list of school districts and where they are. by the state data, we are the furthest off, or very close to the furthest off of the mark. However, when I look at districts who are closer to the mark, I know that their compensation, their benefits packages are far lower than ours. So their salary, they're meeting this target salary closer. Most districts aren't. It also does not set a salary expectation across the district. Our target teacher salary benchmark is 59,000, but there are districts in the state that target teacher salary benchmark is 49,000. So it is not equal across the state. So it is not equally applying this to districts because it is not, this is just the clip of our district, our various districts. But if you look at Douglas, for instance, their benchmark is 62,000. Our benchmark is 5916, but they're still $2,112 off of that benchmark according to the state. They're at 96.64%, so they're at about 3.30 or 3.36% off. However, I've heard from many people who have left us to go out to Douglas, their benefit package is not the same as ours. So they've already changed their compensation packages to raise their average teacher salary. And it didn't fix their problem because they're still off the mark. Whereas we are off the mark as well. Last year, Meade County made a huge adjustment to and they're still off the mark. So if you can you find a district that has made the mark? Because I think those are very telling as well. Can you find any that are in black? Spearfish is 99. They're just $235 off, but their target is 53,000 and our target is 59,000. So just think there's so many things wrong with that. I really need a math teacher, hint, to take this apart and help me really grasp it. Here, McLaughlin is a great example. They're actually overpaying, according to the state, their teachers, because they're paying $53,755. Their benchmark is $49,505. So they're overpaying by $4,250. So I guess it's telling McLaughlin that for the next X number of years, you don't give any raises because you're overpaying and every target is different.
Is the benchmark just based on cost of living in these towns? Is that what?
Benchmark is based on our average teacher salary from 2016, which is wrong because the money didn't come into our districts until 2017, but they're going all the way back to 2016 to grab those numbers. And it's saying, remember, the governor said in her budget address that they have raised school funding by 26.5%. Not true. They have raised money being placed into the targeted teacher salary from 2018 on by that percentage. So they look at where we were in 2016 and they're taking that times 26.5% and they're determining where we need to be. So if we'd been horrible stewards of pay in 2016 and horrible stewards of pay moving forward, we would be in a different position. And I think it is so complicated. I was told that the idea behind moving from compensation, which is what we look at now, to teacher salary is actually the result of, I don't know this to be a fact, but the Department of Education being concerned that the national teacher salary rankings is on salary and not compensation. So because we look at compensation in the state, we rank lower on national polls, and we need to fix that. So this is all about moving where South Dakota shows up on the national teacher pay scale. However, it is not looking at improving quality of life for that particular group of employees. Because it ties, as Coy says, it will either cripple our capital outlay fund. We will have to take a full draw every single year to make this happen. And that would be a travesty based on the capital outlay needs we have in this district. Or we would have to absolutely cripple our benefit package. Or both.
Mr. Brooklyn, I think it's to you.
Still me?
Yep.
Okay. Thank you for that. Yeah, just a couple of comments quick, I guess. It's not that we don't want to. I just want to make that clear to the public. It's not like we're like, we want to keep these salaries down. It's that they're taking money while still holding us accountable. And that's where I have the issue. And I guess kind of to that same conversation, there's got to be a balance there between the salary and the compensation. Because I've always, when I was up at that podium, I was always saying like, insurance is great, but I can't buy food with insurance. Sure. So there's got to be some kind of balance there that and I mean, to a certain extent, I think they have good intentions, some of them. But like, sure. I really appreciate you educating. And to kind of what Deb said a little bit there, this is just teachers that we're talking about too. There are so many others that we need to run these schools, and how do we? We're not gonna have any money for them then either. And so I don't know, I'm just frustrated. I'll leave it there.
All right, Mr. Swan.
Thank you, President Carr. Thank you for all the information, Coy and Nicole. That's very interesting. I just have a few, I'm gonna call them rhetorical questions because I don't know if you really have the answer here, but now, one of the things is, who's the choir with Rapid City? I mean, who has our back? Who could another district that we could go to and say, hey, I know you showed us a listing of everybody, you know, I was looking at, you highlighted Oglala, Lakota County, you know what I mean? And you highlighted the smaller districts. It appears that they wouldn't be in our camp because they're already making but who's in our camp? You know what I mean? That is trying to attract teachers, short staff, yet they still got a lot of bills to pay and a large staff. I mean.
Sadly, I will report to you that and we just looked at the districts closest to ours. So if we went up to the top, we could show you Sioux Falls and we have the whole list, so we can share that with you. Most districts in the state of South Dakota are not experiencing the double whammy that we are, which is fast rising property tax. So local effort is filling our cup, and student enrollment decline. And though two of those are huge whammies on us, and if we had one or the other, it'd be much easier to navigate, but the two of them at the same time is a challenge. West River comes closest. So local communities that are experiencing this growth are closest to us. And if you remember back to a fall report where I said all of the local superintendents went through their student count numbers, and 2 districts out of all of them increased student numbers, had an increase of enrollment. 2 West River school districts increased student numbers. Everybody else saw a decline in student numbers. Now, not every local West River school district is seeing the intense raise in property tax that we are seeing. And it's those things combined that lowers our state aid from the state. So it's just it's the worst case scenario. And because of that, Walt, I don't know that we have anybody necessarily in our corner saying this. So Coy and I have been saying it loudly, politely, and in the right places to get our message across. And through that, and I think through the respect that Coy has in the state and that I have gained, we are being asked to come to the table in some pretty significant conversations. We were not on the agenda. The agenda was set for Thursday. But because we talked to these gentlemen yesterday morning, we got an invitation today. So we have changed our complete schedules and are going to make that trip. And we have to have our own back in this case. Well, because nobody else is experiencing it the same way we are.
Just two more questions here. I know that you speak about, in education, you always speak about the research that goes behind, making a decision, what's best practice, what's the best research model. And you stated that the info that's coming to the lawmakers is from Dr. Graves' office. Who's doing his research? I mean, it's a legitimate question.
Can you
It's
pull up
Coy.
Mitchell?
Coy, are you doing that?
Yeah. That's me. She pointed at you, that's right.
Interestingly enough, if Coy could pull up Mitchell's district, a big pushback from some people on this have been, you haven't met this. You were superintendent of Mitchell for 22 years and you're numerous percent off this as well. So why couldn't you do it in Mitchell if this is the golden ticket for the state? But I will say this respectfully, secretaries of education serve at the request of the governor, and they serve the governor and the governor's agenda. So
I would add to that. I think, obviously the information is flowing out of the business area of the Department of Education. And those are great people. I've worked with those people for 15 years. And I think, as Michael said, they're well-intended. The problem is that not one of them has ever ran a school district in the financial sense or as a superintendent. And so I think it would be very, very difficult for them to really grasp what exactly this means. They're looking at a sliver of information, and again, trying to draw a straight line from point A to point B. And I just do not believe, again, totally respectfully, that any of them truly understand what this situation means. And I think they're looking for answers, and I think it's unfortunate that they did not reach out to districts, or I guess I should say that differently. They did not reach out to us. Of course, they're not required to do so, but I feel like it would have helped them greatly in terms of analyzing this bill and its ability to be anything remotely close to feasible if they reached out to multiple districts and had conversations about, hey, what would this mean to you? Could your district digest this? Is this some? And of course, we would have tried to do our best to inform them, but it's just, I'll stop there.
I'm done as well. Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Yes, sir.
Thank you very much. Ms. Clapham.
It's kind of a follow-up to, what Mr. Burton had said, and I guess in summary, could this create a worse crisis with our support staff situation? And from what I can tell from everything you're showing me, the last, I guess, more holistic injection of funds was 2017. Is that accurate? Because I'm just wondering where anyone would think we could fund our support staff based on the way this has been done. Because if everything is focused, which everyone knows, I love teachers, they're great. But guess what? The school falls apart without the custodians, without our nutrition staff, and I am extremely concerned that how are we supposed to keep, we're already at a crisis. And do you see that as, I see that as an unintended consequence if this were to happen, but maybe I'm wrong.
I do not want to sound like the doomsday guy, but I would completely agree with you. I think that we would see a situation. So let's just take our example. And let's say we broke that 6.5 that we would have to make up over a 3-year period. So we'd have, 2.2 million in makeup back money. Then you take the 4% and that's another 2.5 million. So now we're in for about 4.5 million that first year. If we had at best flat revenue next year, we immediately then have a $5 million hole that we're trying to work out of. So we pull that money from capital outlay. That doesn't include all the other sections of employees that we have that of course we want to increase compensation. Not, I should say that differently. We need to increase compensation to recruit and retain those folks. I think we would immediately see us having to pull away from benefits and start to push money over into compensation because we would not have a choice. We could leverage capital outlay to the greatest extent possible, but I don't think that's going to make up the gap. So I do not say that in any way to sound doomsday. I truly believe that we would have to radically change what our system looks like and not in a good way.
Okay. You done? Okay. Oh. Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Where does Associated School Boards sit with this? Or do we need to find our own lobby?
Oh, the Associated School Boards is very against this.
Okay.
That is actually who we spoke to. School Administrators of South Dakota and Associate School Board of South Dakota are the two people that Coy and I presented to yesterday that have set up this meeting with the House Ed and Senate Ed Committee. And they have invited us now. So they're incredibly concerned about this and numerous other bills, but this is highly concerning to them because it is a nightmare for Rapid City. It is a nightmare for every school district that is behind.
That was my other question. How many are behind? Even this picture, there's only one.
There's
in the black.
There's a significant amount of districts behind. And Nicole made great comments earlier, and I totally agree about the idea that we are generally on an island in terms of legislation and that, we have to have our own backs. However, I would say, I don't believe that any district in the state and or lobbying group would get behind this bill. Even take a New Underwood, for example, just right above us. So they're $33,000 off of their benchmark. They have 19 FTE. So that sounds like nothing, but to a district like New Underwood, that's a huge amount of money. And their ability to make that up in a 3-year period is incredibly difficult. Furthermore, I promise you that there will not be a business person in this state that will be excited about the idea of being tied to an increase at a legislative level. That is, no matter what your district is, no matter what factors you're dealing with, that is not something that they will be excited for. So I think this bill in particular, we're going to see a lot of support to kill. I do think that, again, when other iterations come forward, it's going to start to get more difficult because then we'll see other districts going, well, that's not so much of a problem for us. I think if we can kick the idea of having to make up ground out, that would be a huge start. I am legitimately concerned about the idea of us being tied to whatever's happening with state aid, and I think that one would be more difficult to root out of a bill coming forward, but we'll see.
And then if this is what they're saying would have to be done in 3 years, does that benchmark change every year? And so we'd be behind forever.
We have to make this benchmark plus whatever percent. Like the governor said 4% this year. So remember last year negotiations, we took a percentage amount and we said to the teams, this is your amount, salary, benefits, you have to kind of determine. This is saying that we don't get to have that conversation, that whatever they pass at the state has to go that year into teacher salaries. Period.
Yeah, I think it makes your negotiation extremely restrictive because the district's interest will be, well, we have to do what we have to do to move that average salary. And so we don't have a lot of room for other discussions about what you believe would be important, like carving out other areas to increase compensation in some way. So.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Any other, Mr. Martinez?
Thank you. So I know this is probably a dream, but if we did get something every year, like that 2017 infusion, would that be something that, like, if they actually understood what the 6% meant?
Yeah.
We actually got 6% or whatever,
Yeah.
this would be doable then.
Absolutely. I think then you completely change the narrative of the conversation. If the direction was, we're gonna require you to increase by whatever we're increasing to state aid, but we're actually going to increase that final dollar amount by the same amount, we would be having a completely different conversation. I would still asterisk that with the idea that that doesn't necessarily go from point A to point B, but ensuring a positive increase in revenue every year would go a tremendously long ways to addressing this situation. And that's the key. You make an excellent
That's the
point.
big
That's the
confusion
key.
is They think they're giving us that 6%,
Right.
but we're not.
But I also would say that, a concern that I have is if they are requiring us to make up lost revenue, what's stopping them next year from saying, your districts already have to give you a raise, so we're not putting any more money into education.
Sure.
So for the next 3 years, they could say 0% to education because all these districts are behind and having to catch up.
It's a great point.
That has historically happened, and that is a really bad place to be.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Oh, Ms. Stephenson.
What could you use from us? You've spent a lot of time educating the board.
Well, we appreciate you listening because it gives us trial runs to know what we should and shouldn't say. From my perspective, and Nicole, you feel free to add, I appreciate your support. Sincerely appreciate you giving us time to address these things with you because we get very limited opportunities to dive into these things. So I think you understanding as board members, understanding those couple of big picture points, we don't necessarily need you to be experts in drilling way down to the bottom of this, but understanding those two major talking points. One, an increase to state aid does not mean an increase to a district revenue. And two, I forget what two was, but I'll come back to it. But I think for you all, it's keeping those big picture ideas in mind so that when you're influencing in the community, you can say, hey, here's the big pictures. And if you need more information, talk to Coy and Nicole.
I would second that. I would also say that this is just a surface level kind of, I mean, it feels like we've gotten really deep, but I think we do this so that you know that we're working hard for the school district and that is our job. And we would ask that, if any conversations are coming to you, you have enough knowledge to say, hey, I know just enough about this to say, call Coy or reach out to Nicole. As far as thinking about the idea of lobbying, I wouldn't go any deeper other than we're Rapid City Area Schools as opposed to House Bill 1048. Because if you go past that step and you start going into the weeds with it, legislators tend to get very defensive if it's not somebody who's an expert in that topic. And we don't ever want to alienate any of our representatives that have the ability to go and be proactive for education. So I think just short conversations or short messages about, hey, we're really opposed to House Bill 1048, or Rapid City has some big concerns about Senate Bill, whatever. And we wish that you would reach out to Nicole or Coy, because we are regularly reaching out to them with offers to get to meet with them or have calls with them. I have received calls from senators or representatives who want to know. That would be how I feel we could best be supported in this.
All right, Coy, was that your report or you?
That is my report, sir. Think I've gone over my allotted time?
Okay. Board members, you have any questions? Okay, moving on to item 12. Before we get a motion on the approval of the proposed agreements, I went back and did some research on motions to amend. We have, I don't know what issue it was, but last year sometime we got criticized because we were debating, I don't know if it was a policy or exactly what resolution, what it was, and we were dealing with the library, and we were rewriting it and we got criticized. When someone makes a motion to amend, and if that is motioned and seconded, that gives the board the power to amend the original question. So we could spend 3 hours rewriting it, talking about it, throwing spitwads at each other about it, right? We have that power to amend, all right? Now, whether you want to use that power is discretionary because, again, one of the reasons why I stopped the conversation about bringing Kelsey in, our in-house legal counsel, is it's unfair to her to make, while we can talk and bump gums about what we want to talk about, she would appreciate time to research and make sure that she's given us a sound legal recommendation. So if it's changing a sentence, okay, period, words, paragraph, okay. But once we start needing Kelsey's involvement, then it's better not use an amendment than to either send it back to committee, kill it, start over, or whatever. But I just want us and the community to understand that if we motion and second an amendment, a motion to amend, that we do have the power to take as much time as we want to rewrite whatever it is that we're doing, all right? So I just want to inform that we have the power to do it, but just using wisdom on when and how we do it, okay? All right, at this time, approval of proposed agreements.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and second. Any discussion? Going once, twice, 3 times. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Okay. Approval of proposed consent agenda. Any items that you all would like removed?
Yes, please. Could I do Echo?
Echo,
And
all right, there it is.
Mike as well, please?
Echo and Mike?
I studied.
Yes. Very good. Ms. Stephenson?
Leo?
Yeah, Lima.
Lima, thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, we've got Echo, Mike, and Lima are removed. May I have a motion to approve the proposed consent agenda except for Echo, Mike, and Lima?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, I'll take a motion for Echo.
So moved. Second.
All right, moved and seconded.
That was me, yeah.
Yes.
I appreciate the work of the policy committee. I still just feel a little uncomfortable with propaganda. I don't think I need to make a motion. Just because of the way propaganda has historically been defined and in recent history, how some people have called certain things propaganda. I don't love having it in there. I realized it was in the previous one, so I don't feel too bad about it being in the current one. So like I said, I don't know that I necessarily need to make a motion to amend, but I did want to pull it so that I don't have to vote for it.
All right, any other discussions? All right, let's do a roll call since we are gonna have a no vote or a assumption of a no vote.
Troy,
Yes,
Jamie,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Michael.
No.
Walt,
Yes.
Kate.
Yes.
Motion carries 6-1.
all right, very good. I'll entertain a motion for Mike.
Do you want to go out first?
Do you wanna do Lima first instead of mine?
Oh, we're going in alphabetical order.
I mean, we don't have to.
Okay, well, we already have a person seconded, so we'll stay with Mike.
All right.
All right,
Awesome.
yes.
Yeah, I basically just wanted to pull this one. I kind of wish I would have done for the Kenny Lake one. I just feel like when it's something like this that we should pull it, just because it is such a big thing. And I just wanted to reiterate the same points that we all made before of we have heard, we have listened. We might not do what you wanted us to. It doesn't mean that we weren't listening. We are keeping in mind the bigger picture, the class sizes, all of those things. So I just wanted to kind of reiterate all those conversations real quick before we actually took the vote.
Okay, all right, we all in favor of Mike, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, Lima, entertain a motion.
Second.
All right, discussion. Yes, ma'am.
You're gonna have to walk me through the procedure here, but the paperwork on this is no longer accurate because the foundation yesterday voted to approve a $1,500 grant, not $4,747.10.
I would say, thank you, Christine, for pointing that out. I would say that I think this was a mess up because of the change in leadership with the Rapid City Public School Foundation. Typically, these don't go to the board and Shirley until they have been approved. But because Kara's stepping out and Sarah's stepping in, they were sent before the Rapid City Public School Foundation met and approved them. So this would be one that you could choose to amend it or change the number. You could ask for two and so that it reflected the correct amount. Or it can go through as is, but this is not gonna change the amount of money the Public School Foundation is going to send. And that money goes to the Federal Programs Office and then is distributed. So I appreciate Christine pointing out that the ask was for a much bigger amount than was approved. And in the future, I will make sure that Sarah knows that these don't go on until after they have had Public School Board Foundation action, not before.
Okay, so Christine, I think it's very important that we actually vote on what we're doing. So if there is a number that needs to be changed, then you can just make a motion to amend. We'll first and second, in the discussion, we'll make the change. We'll approve the change and then approve the.
Ms. Baker's hands up, just FYI.
Perfect example for what you just talked about.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes. Ms. Baker.
So I'm just curious, if she wasn't here, how would we know that that number was wrong?
I was there, so I would have
If you
reported
weren't-
it.
If either of you weren't here, how would we know that?
Well, hopefully Michael would have been there. There's two board members. There's two board members and the superintendent.
Redundancy.
That is why we have multiple board members on committees. So I would also say that Shirley and I will work hard with Sarah to make sure that this doesn't happen. I didn't attend a December board meeting and I had it in my mind that it must have passed then, but there wasn't a December Rapid City Public School Foundation meeting. So that is my fault as well.
All right, Mr. Berkeley.
Yeah, I was just gonna say to your point too, it doesn't really change the amount. We're more authorizing them to give the grant, correct?
Correct.
So it would have maybe come through on later on, hey, you actually gave them 1,500 or whatever. I would assume, and I'm assuming that if we went upward, that we would need to approve something, but if we're giving them less money, they're probably, they're probably not gonna do with that.
Okay, well, Mr. Swan.
In a second, I just wanted I would like to reiterate, the superintendent said back below several times, get it right. Struggling, I understand this is Rapid City Public School Foundation, they have an obligation to get it right as well. So I would assume that if you're gonna play favorites, then you can play favorites with everybody, all of us do what we're gonna do. Please send this back because it does look like we're showing a little bit of favoritism to somebody. We're gonna get this right. Let's get this right. The only difference here is one is a union organization and one is, and I will point that out. Thank you.
All right, so you all can vote up or down on the current question, or you can amend the number. It's up to you whether it matters to you or not. Mrs. Clappin.
I was only gonna ask Christine if she wanted to formally amend it. I didn't, since I wasn't there, I certainly wasn't gonna say either way, so.
Okay, so we're still in discussions of the original motion. There is no other motion on the floor. Any more discussion?
I would say that in answer to, Walt, although he is accurate that we did send OLO's, proposal back, it was proposing services that were not authorized in our district, and we sent it back for those services to be removed. This is a financial grant request for the PBIS system at North that is approved. The PBIS system is approved, and it's a financial support of that approved PBIS program at North Middle School for a lower amount than was requested. If this was for a program at North Middle School that had never gone through for board approval, I would have pulled it. It would have been pulled and not placed on the agenda. But PBIS is a board-approved district program, and this is a financial gift to that program.
Okay, Ms. Baker, you have your hand up still?
Yeah,
Mr. Swan, do you have your hand up still?
I would disagree with the superintendent on this. I really do. It's about getting it right when you say you come to the board. From the understanding from the program before, that was the vehement, your policy, your attitude towards that particular program, that they needed to get it right. And if you're going to continue to have that, then let's hold every program responsible for that, including one of our own.
Okay, at this point, I would just like to refocus us into the question at hand at Lima. So Christine, if you want to make an amendment to correct the number, you can actually do it at any time during this discussion.
I'd like to amend the number to read $1,500. I'd like to make an amendment.
A motion. So there's a motion to amend the number to 1,500. There's a second. Any discussion? Okay. Okay, all in favor of amending the question of Lima to 1,500 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Opposed.
Okay. So you do have, let's get a roll call then. And this is on the motion to amend the original motion to $1,500. All right, roll call, please.
Troy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Michael,
No.
Walt,
No.
Kate,
Yes.
motion carries 5-2.
Okay, so the original question has been amended to $1,500. We already have a motion and a second on the original question. We've had discussion, we have the amendment. So all in favor of approving Lima as amended, let's do another roll call. Shirley, just be accurate.
Troy,
Yes.
Jamie,
Yes.
Christine,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Michael,
Yes.
Walt,
No.
Kate,
Yes.
Okay.
motion carries 6-1.
Very good. We are at item 14, items for board information. Any board committee reports? Any? Oh, you do.
I raised my hand.
Ms. Stephenson, I'm sorry.
Communicating via the computer.
I'm sorry.
All right, so yesterday the Public School Foundation met. I really have nothing to report that wasn't already reported tonight. There's a new executive director. We welcomed her. We are very excited about reaching the fundraising goal for the school lunch deficit. And then that North Middle School grant that went to a special education teacher who is funding the PBIS program, more of like the store, so that kids can get incentives to for good behavior. Just so everybody knows, they get, you know, some sort of bucks and they can go to the store and get things. And apparently it's very meaningful to the students, and it's an effective way to promote positive behavior. So it was easy grant to give, although they didn't want to give some of the bigger items just to keep it reasonable, I guess. So that's the report from the Public School Foundation.
Okay, thank you. Any other committee reports? Ms. Clapham?
Not really a report, just a brief reminder, because realizing that January is like long with how many Tuesdays that the community forum for student achievement and addressing achievement gaps will be, the Zoom version will be on January 29th from 7 to 9. And then the in-person will be at Rapid City High School from 5:30 to 7:30. And we'd love to see the community and hear your feedback.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for bringing that up. Appreciate that. All right, any other committee reports? Seeing none, any others? Right, Chair recognizes Mrs. Clapham.
So a couple quick others. One, I wanted to publicly say a big thank you to Dakota Butcher and Black Hills Bagel. They provided an awesome field trip experience for the first graders at Blackhawk. And they provided them a locally sourced meal, and they sent them home with snacks. And it's just really encouraging to see local businesses really collaborating with our schools, and the kids had a blast. And so it was just really great to see that collaboration, and I hope to continue to see that. So I wanted to thank those businesses publicly for that. And my other was just that yesterday we recognized Dr. Martin Luther King's birthday as our federal holiday. And I felt compelled to acknowledge that our district, and specifically this board, really represent the ideals of Dr. King. And it's that one of his quotes is, "Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. You don't have to have a college degree to serve. You don't have to make your subject and verb agree to serve. You only need to have a heart full of grace, a soul generated by love." And tonight, just seeing our students from so many backgrounds and so many walks of life, and looking at this board and seeing the variety and diversity we have, I'm really proud of us as a district. And I think that if Dr. King talked about what he imagined of what he saw, this is some of the things I pictured that he would have seen then. And it's an honor and a privilege to be part of that. And I think it's wonderful that we will continue to embrace that and embrace that vision of serving and moving forward and moving together. All of us, no matter what our background, no matter what our political persuasion, no matter what that is.
Thank you for saying that. Appreciate that. Ms. Thomas?
I would be remiss if I didn't give Scott Ferris some love as well. I went to Pinedale as well, so I'm glad to see he's there. He also was the principal when a couple of my kids went through East when he was at there. So he is fantastic. He's been through this district for quite some time, but he also has brought to the board in the past the things that aren't as fun to say about the school or programs that are going on. He gives us the real deal. So, but he also gives us the good stuff too. So he's a great guy. Thanks.
All right. Any others? All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session SDCL 1-25 2.1, talking about employee performance. Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Okay, after a 3 5-minute break.